Walking out of TechFlow Solutions on that Friday afternoon, cardboard box tucked under my arm, I should have felt devastated. Instead, I felt something else entirely. My new boss had just looked me dead in the eye and said, "I will not spend another dime on an incompetent employee." I smiled, shook his hand, and replied, "Good luck." He had no idea what that meant. No idea that Monday morning was going to be the most entertaining day of his career. But before I tell you how it all unraveled, let me take you back to where this story really begins. Before I tell you what happened next, I need to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. If you have ever been underestimated by a boss who thought they knew better, this story is for you. Hit that like button and subscribe, because what happened on Monday morning made everything worth it. Here is how it started. I am Jimmy, 32 years old, single, living in Austin, Texas. For 7 years, I worked as a senior software engineer at TechFlow Solutions, a company that developed enterprise software. My job focused on back-end systems, specifically authentication and security protocols. It was technical work, the kind that keeps companies running, but rarely gets the spotlight. 3 years ago, I created something that changed everything. I developed a proprietary authentication protocol called the FlowGuard authentication system. It solved a major problem in multi-tenant enterprise applications, the kind where security breaches could cost millions. I saw the gap in the market and spent nights and weekends building the solution. When I finished, I did something unusual. I hired my own lawyer and filed for a patent independently. It cost me most of my savings, but 2 years ago that patent was approved. The system was mine legally and completely. I licensed it to TechFlow at a favorable rate because at the time the company treated me well. The license agreement was specific. It remained valid only while I was employed at TechFlow. It required annual renewal, and only I had the authority to maintain and extend it. FlowGuard became the backbone of everything TechFlow built. All 12 of their major products relied on it. Customers trusted it. The company generated around $45 million annually, and a significant portion of that revenue traced directly back to my system. My old boss, Douglas Patterson, understood what I brought to the table. Douglas was the founder and chief executive, a man in his 60s, with decades of experience. He was more than a boss. He was a mentor. Under his leadership, the company culture thrived. We focused on innovation, collaboration, and treating employees with respect. Douglas made sure I received consistent raises, equity options, and recognition for my work. We landed major contracts, including a $10 million deal with a banking client and another significant project with a healthcare provider. Customers praised FlowGuard for its reliability. I felt valued, essential even. My work-life balance was healthy. I worked around 45 hours a week and still had time for hiking and playing guitar. Life felt stable, purposeful. Then Douglas announced his retirement. He sold the company to an investment group, and they brought in a new chief executive. His name was Bradley Sampson, 41 years old, with an athletic build, slicked back hair, and a wardrobe full of expensive suits. He wore a Rolex that caught the light every time he gestured. Bradley came from finance and consulting, armed with an MBA from an Ivy League school. He had no technical background, no understanding of software development. He was the kind of leader who lived and breathed spreadsheets, someone who saw employees as line items rather than people. His first company-wide meeting set the tone. He stood at the front of the room and talked about optimization, cutting the fat, and maximizing shareholder value. He never mentioned innovation or customer satisfaction. I sat in the back, arms crossed, feeling uneasy. I told myself to give him a chance, but the warning signs were already flashing. Within his first week, Bradley requested detailed reports from every department head. Then he started cutting benefits. The free snacks disappeared. The annual retreat was canceled. The training budget vanished. My manager, the head of engineering, tried to explain the importance of key personnel, but Bradley only cared about compensation versus output metrics. Numbers on a screen mattered more than the people behind them. Bradley began attending technical meetings, inserting himself into conversations he barely understood. During one meeting about upgrading FlowGuard, I presented a detailed technical roadmap. Bradley interrupted halfway through. "How does this impact the bottom line?" he asked. I explained the importance of security and customer satisfaction. He waved his hand dismissively. "I do not need tech jargon. I need numbers." I felt my jaw tighten, but I stayed professional. At an all-hands meeting, Bradley announced upcoming performance reviews. "We will eliminate underperformers," he said with unsettling confidence. A colleague asked how he defined underperformance in engineering. Bradley's answer was blunt. "If I do not see clear return on investment from someone, they are underperforming." The room went silent. People exchanged worried glances. I tried to schedule a one-on-one meeting with Bradley. His assistant finally squeezed me in. I walked into his office, a cold space, with floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture. Bradley sat behind his desk, eyes glued to his laptop. I explained the FlowGuard patent and its importance to the company. He did not look up. Yeah, that is what the company pays you for," he said. I tried again. "Actually, the patent is mine personally. I license it to the company under specific terms." He cut me off. "I do not have time for this. Send me an email." I sent a detailed email that same afternoon. He never replied. Frustration began to build. I talked to colleagues who felt the same way. Some were already looking for other jobs. I thought about leaving, but I had built something important at TechFlow. I decided to stay. 2 months into Bradley's tenure, he called a company-wide meeting on a Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. He stood beside Kate, the human resources director, a woman in her 30s who looked visibly nervous. Bradley opened a PowerPoint presentation titled, "TechFlow 2.0 Leaner, Stronger, Profitable." One slide showed plans to reduce headcount by 20%. The room fell silent. You could hear people breathing. Bradley delivered his message with corporate detachment. "This is business, not personal. We keep only those who contribute to growth." My chest tightened, but I reassured myself. I owned the patent. The company needed FlowGuard. Surely I was safe. At the end of the meeting, Bradley added, "Human resources will contact affected individuals next week. Those impacted will receive 2 weeks of severance." I spent the weekend unable to sleep. I kept thinking about my colleagues, wondering who would be let go. But I still believed I was untouchable. Monday morning, an email appeared in my inbox. The subject line read, "Meeting request. Bradley, Sampson, Kate, and you." The time was set for 10 a.m. My stomach dropped. Maybe they wanted to discuss protecting key personnel, I told myself. Deep down, I knew better. I arrived at the conference room at exactly 10 a.m. Bradley and Kate were already seated. The room was small and cold, the kind of space designed for uncomfortable conversations. Bradley sat at the head of the table, his expression professionally blank, but his eyes cold. Kate sat beside him, a folder in front of her, avoiding eye contact. Bradley did not bother with pleasantries. "Jimmy, thanks for coming. This will be brief." He slid a piece of paper across the table. "We are terminating your employment effective immediately." The words hit me like a punch. "What, why?" Bradley leaned back in his chair. "We are streamlining operations. Your role is redundant." Redundant. The word felt absurd. Redundant. I created FlowGuard. The system that runs everything. Bradley's expression did not change. "Listen, Jimmy. I reviewed your compensation. You are making $135,000 a year. That is too much for what you do. Your code is already written. We do not need you to maintain it. Any competent developer can handle maintenance." I felt my pulse quicken. It is not about maintenance. I own the patent. The license agreement states that if I leave, the company loses access to FlowGuard. Bradley interrupted, irritation creeping into his voice. "The company uses the system. That means the company owns it." I shook my head. "No. Legally, I own the patent. I license it to TechFlow. If I am no longer an employee, the license terminates." Bradley stood up, clearly done with the conversation. "I am not interested in your legal theories." He turned toward the door, signaling the meeting was over. "Kate will explain your severance package. 2 weeks of pay." "That is generous." He glanced at Kate. "Process his termination." I stood up, my voice firm but controlled. "Bradley, you need to understand. The patent license expires automatically when I am no longer an employee. It is written into the contract." Bradley stopped and turned back, a smirk forming on his lips. "Are you threatening me?" I met his gaze. "I am informing you of the legal reality." Bradley stepped closer, his voice dropping to a cold, deliberate tone. "Let me tell you something, Jimmy. I will not spend another dime on an incompetent employee who thinks he is irreplaceable. You are a cog in a machine. And cogs can be replaced. Your so-called patent, it does not matter. We will find someone else, or we will build around it. Now get out of my office and clean out your desk. Kate tried to interject. Bradley, maybe we should discuss this further with legal before making a final decision. Bradley cut her off. I said we are done here. In that moment, I realized there was no reasoning with him. Bradley was too arrogant to listen, too confident in his authority to consider consequences. Fine. I would let him learn the hard way. I took a slow breath and smiled calmly. All right. Good luck, Bradley. My tone was not sarcastic. It was knowing. Bradley frowned, confused by my reaction. What is that supposed to mean? I shrugged. You will find out soon enough. I turned to Kate. Where do I sign? I signed the termination papers without another word. Kate escorted me back to my desk, her expression sympathetic. As we walked, she leaned in and whispered, I am sorry, Jimmy.